Imagine having a personal doctor constantly at your side every day, every minute. Remote patient monitoring is rapidly establishing itself as one of the most effective tools for disease management. Newly emerging wearable sensing technologies enable long-term measurements of physiological data in ambulatory environments. Such devices can be crucial for facilitating the diagnosis and treatment of many diseases, such as epilepsy. Epilepsy is a neurological disease characterized by episodes of sudden and irregular neuronal activation, denominated epileptic seizures. During a seizure, patients can suffer from a loss of consciousness, cognitive function, motor control, or a combination of these. It can be treated with the use of anti-epileptic drugs or surgical procedures. It affects around 50 million people worldwide, and 30 to 40% of epileptic patients who have access to treatment are found to be resistant. There are two main different types of seizures, focal and generalized. Focal seizures can be subdivided in aware and impaired awareness, and motor or non-motor. Generalized seizures are separated into motor or non-motor, known as absent seizures. The diagnosis of epilepsy is achieved by studying the patient's history and by observing the seizure profile within specialized clinics, named epileptic monitoring units. The gold standard monitoring tool for recording seizures is video electroencephalography, or VEEG. During such hospital stays, the patient's brain electrical activity and body movement is closely observed and manually analyzed and annotated. This process is costly and time-consuming. Patients are required to stay at the hospital multiple days in order to obtain a detailed diagnostic, and clinicians have to inspect hours and hours of data. Outside of the hospital, patients resort to self-reports of seizure occurrences. However, with this method, patients report less than 50% of focal seizures and less than 10% of absent seizures. In our work, we focus on implementing strategies that take advantage of wearable technologies to monitor epileptic patients during their daily lives. Considering this setting, it is unfeasible for clinicians to manually annotate long-term, we're talking months, of continuous recordings from multiple patients. Our objective is to reduce the burden on clinicians for manually analyzing the data and increase the monitoring quality for patients in real-life scenarios. We solve this problem by employing automated seizure detection frameworks. The purpose of automatic detection is to provide clinicians only the data segments that are highly probable to contain seizures, reducing significantly the manual review time. For a long time, machine learning methods have been employed to analyze EEG data and to develop classifiers in order to automatically detect seizures. We can separate machine learning methods into feature-based and deep learning approaches. The two differ in the feature extraction process. The first employs manually engineered features that are fed into a selected classifier. The latter relies on automatic extraction of the features from the data itself, where they are learned by the model during training, depending on the classification output. Regardless of the preferred methodology, the most important element to develop automated seizure detection frameworks is data. In the past years, we were included in the Seizure project, where the main goal was to develop a wearable device for monitoring epileptic patients. Within this project, the sensor dot from Byteflies, a wearable device that measures behind-the-ear EEG, ECG, and EMG, was developed and employed to record wearable data from epileptic patients. With this unique wearable dataset, we developed a feature-based machine learning framework that detects seizures in the behind-the-ear EEG data. The framework follows three different steps. First, we pre-process the raw data with typical time series filtering and normalization. Additionally, the data is segmented into smaller windows, particularly 2-second segments. Secondly, we extract multiple features from the processed data, such as temporal, statistical, and spectral features. Lastly, the extracted features are used to train a classifier. In our work, we select a supported vector machine to separate data points into seizure and background EEG. The output is a label for each data segment. By training the algorithm on the behind-the-ear EEG data collected from epileptic patients in the hospital during the Seizure project, we are able to achieve a sensitivity of 79% and a 1 false alarm per hour. In certain seizure types, it is known that the autonomic nervous system, in particular the cardiovascular system, can suffer pathological changes. In some individuals, the heart rate increases due to seizures. We showed in our work that including heart rate data in the seizure detection framework can help the performance of the algorithm. With the sensor device, we took advantage of both EEG and ECG data to develop a multimodal algorithm. We derived the heart rate from the ECG data, and similarly to the behind-the-ear EEG algorithm, we segment, extract features, and use a classifier for obtaining a label for each data segment. In the end, the classification output from each modality is combined in a late integration strategy, where a seizure alarm is produced if it is detected in one or both modalities. The multimodal algorithm increases the sensitivity to 92%, with a slight increase in the false alarm rate to 1.85 false alarms per hour. To show the real value of such frameworks, we collaborated with researchers from the University Hospital Leuven to take the automatically generated seizure alarms and blindly annotate the presented data segments. The detection sensitivity achieved was 62%, with a low false alarm rate of 2.4 per 24 hours of recording. Multimodal seizure detection frameworks only benefit when patients manifest the expected physiological changes. The modalities used in the algorithms depend heavily on the type of seizure. In a study by our group, we evaluated the usability of movement data, in particularly accelerometry and gyroscope data. We detect generalized absence seizures together with the EEG data, both measured by the wearable device. Patients with absent seizures do not move when the seizure occurs. By using movement data, it is possible to increase the performance of the algorithms by filtering out artifacts associated to movement. With this framework, the number of false alarms decreases significantly while maintaining a high sensitivity. Other ways to improve the performance of the models is to re-evaluate the quality of the ground truth annotations provided by the clinicians. Supervised algorithms rely heavily on annotated data, which is used as ground truth for training the models. Additionally, the annotations are done in the VEEG data. In certain cases, seizures are not visible in the wearable data due to the unconventional electrode positions. If the annotations contain segments without signal characteristics of seizures, the model can learn contradictory information and become uncertain. Our group has worked on methods to automatically correct seizure annotations. We do this by using a self-confidence approach. Here, a base model is used for obtaining the probability of a segment containing a seizure, which is then compared to the ground truth. A ranking of most likely correct labels is obtained, and then the most confident segments are used for training the final algorithm. This method produces an increase in sensitivity of 2% and a 3-fold decrease of false alarms. The future of this project involves including more data recorded in the last 2 years from several clinical centers around Europe. Additionally, we plan on testing the automated seizure detection framework on data recorded in real-life scenarios where patients use the wearable device outside of the hospital during their daily lives. We're also focused on improving the detection framework by implementing deep learning methods and incorporating semi-supervised strategies to improve the detection performance on the data recorded outside of the hospital. This way, we can mimic the final use case, where patients are firstly evaluated in the hospital, in which the data recorded is then used to train the automated framework, and is then deployed on the data recorded with the wearable device for long-term monitoring of seizure occurrences.